In the following clip you're about to watch, we dive into the terrifying reality of being a night shift security guard. Malls and department stores are designed to be filled with massive crowds. So when you empty them out, kill the music, and turn off the lights at 3 a.m, they immediately turn into massive, echoing concrete tombs. The guy filming this is just doing his standard, solitary patrol through the dark plaza when the dead silence is suddenly shattered by something that completely freezes him in his tracks. He hears a distinct, terrifying scream echoing from somewhere deep inside the empty building.
Buenas noches, la plaza ya se cerró. ¿Hay alguien aquí? Buenas noches. Ya se cerró la plaza, joven. Buenas noches. Buenas noches, ya se cerró. ¿Hay algún niño aquí? Buenas noches.
The worst part about a sound like that in a massive commercial space is the acoustics. The scream bounces off the closed metal security gates and tile floors, creating a distorted echo that makes it almost impossible to pinpoint exactly where it's coming from. In paranormal theory, an isolated, disembodied scream of this magnitude is usually categorized as one of two things. It could be a residual haunting, an intensely traumatic or emotional event permanently stamped into the environment, replaying itself blindly like a broken record. Or, in a much more sinister scenario, it's an intelligent entity mimicking human distress. It knows the guard is the only living person in the building, and it is actively using a horrific sound to bait him off his normal route and draw him into the darkest corners of the store. When your literal job description is to investigate disturbances, a phantom scream is the ultimate nightmare, because eventually you have to go walk into the dark and see what's waiting for you. In this next video, we're looking at, or rather listening to, something that has genuinely terrified an entire neighborhood. The person recording is standing near a river in pitch black darkness, and they are capturing this audio in real time. According to the caption, this isn't just an isolated incident, it's actually the third time in 2 years that this strange, inexplicable singing has echoed across the water at night. Take a listen to what these residents are hearing out there in the dark.
Okay, so as you can see, it's pitch black out there, right? I live on a river, and there's no lights. So, there's a one there. But, like, it's pitch black. So just listen for a moment, okay? And tell me that you would not be fucking freaked out by this. What the fuck?
Hearing a disembodied song echoing over a body of water in the dead of night immediately brings up some very old, very dark folklore. Throughout history, legends from almost every culture warn about water spirits, mermaids, and sirens using beautiful, haunting melodies for one specific reason: to lure people off their path and into the depths. Most paranormal audio is just a quick, residual whisper, but singing requires breath, pitch, and intention. When an unseen entity projects a song across a dark river, it isn't just making random noise, it's actively performing, and more importantly, it is acting as bait. It wants you to step closer to the edge to see where the music is coming from. It's completely understandable why the people living near this river are so on edge, which leaves us with a very creepy question. What do you think makes that sound? I'll leave you to be the judge. In this next clip, we see exactly why 3 a.m. is universally known in the paranormal community as the demonic hour. The guy in this footage is completely vulnerable, fast asleep on his living room couch. According to the caption, his wife had already been complaining about feeling a strange, heavy presence in the apartment, which is likely why this security camera was rolling in the first place. As you watch this, keep your eyes locked on the deep shadows in the background. Watch very closely. There are a few things about this footage that make it absolutely terrifying. First is the visual of that dark, dense mass physically emerging from the corner, but it's the intelligence of the movement that makes your stomach drop. The second the man stirs and briefly wakes up, the shadow instantly retreats back into hiding. It is actively observing him, waiting for him to be fully unconscious and defenseless. Then there is the audio. The entity doesn't just move, it lets out a deep, guttural growl. In paranormal research, a growling sound is almost always a massive red flag. Human spirits might whisper, cry, or cause objects to shift, but a growl is typically classified as something inhuman or demonic. It isn't just a restless soul wandering through their apartment, it is a predator. And knowing that it is just crouching in the dark, watching him sleep at 3:30 in the morning is enough to make you never want to close your eyes again. In this next clip, we explore a deeply unsettling and universal fear, being trapped in your bedroom while something unseen is waiting on the other side of your door. The girl filming this is completely alone in her apartment. She explicitly mentions in her caption that all the windows are securely closed, completely ruling out the possibility of a weird cross breeze or draft. But as she sits in her room, the door begins to violently rattle and shake. It isn't a subtle vibration. It moves exactly as if a physical person is standing out in the hallway, aggressively gripping the handle and trying to force their way inside. The physical manifestation is terrifying, but the most sinister detail here is the timing. The creator specifically notes that this door only ever starts acting up when her roommate leaves the house. In paranormal research, an entity that displays this kind of selective, targeted behavior is considered incredibly dangerous because it shows predatory intelligence. Spirits that engage in isolation tactics aren't just mindlessly haunting a space. By intentionally waiting until she is completely alone, the entity achieves two dark goals. It guarantees there are no other witnesses to validate her experience, making her question her own sanity, and it maximizes her vulnerability. Entities like this are parasitic. They use isolation to break down your psychological defenses so they can feed off your concentrated, unfiltered panic. When whatever is living in your house starts intentionally separating you from the herd, it isn't just a haunting anymore, and it is definitely time to break the lease. What would you do if you were in her shoes? In this next clip, we look at exactly why finding certain objects hidden away in an old house should be your immediate cue to leave. The guy filming this is completely alone at his grandparents' house. Well, alone except for his dog. He starts recording because he made a very unsettling discovery. An old Ouija board stashed away upstairs. Almost immediately after he finds it, the energy in the house completely shifts. He starts hearing bizarre sounds, and a cup inexplicably knocks itself over. In the paranormal community, an abandoned Ouija board isn't just a dusty piece of cardboard. It is widely considered to be an open door. If a session wasn't closed properly years ago, the theory is that whatever was invited in never actually left. It just went dormant, waiting for someone to acknowledge it again. As the activity ramps up, pay very close attention to his and his dog's reaction.
Mi gente, buenas noches. Estoy en casa de mis abuelos. En la parte de arriba encontré una Ouija, no sé de quién sea. Por eso quería grabar, mi gente. Ustedes están viendo todo. No, hey, ¿quién está aquí? No mames, están aventando los vasos y la puerta. Por favor, Padre nuestro que estás en el cielo, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga a nosotros tu reino. Hágase su voluntad en la tierra como en el cielo. Danos hoy nuestro pan de cada día. Perdona nuestras ofensas. No mames, güey. Vete a la verga. No mames, Padre nuestro que estás en el cielo. Santificado sea tu nombre. Venga a nosotros tu reino. Hágase su voluntad en la tierra como en el cielo. Danos hoy nuestro pan de cada día. Y perdona nuestras ofensas. No. Perdona nuestras ofensas como tal. No mames. No. Vete a la verga, porque el control. No, güey, no. Por más.
There are few things scarier than a dog aggressively barking at an empty room. Animals possess a sensory range that human beings simply don't have. When a dog locks its attention on the top of a dark staircase and goes into guard mode, it isn't barking at nothing. It is barking because something is standing right there, looking back down at them. But the absolute breaking point is when that ball bounces down the stairs. It comes directly from the second floor, the exact same place where he just found the Ouija board. It's a classic, terrifying display of a spirit mocking the living. The sheer, unfiltered panic in his voice as he starts frantically praying the Our Father is completely visceral. He realizes in real time that whatever was left attached to that board is now walking down the stairs to introduce itself. In this next piece of footage, we see a terrifying escalation of workplace paranormal activity. Working late in an empty office building is already isolating, but for this guy, it turns into a full-blown siege. It starts with the sound of things being violently thrown around outside his office. He immediately checks the wall of security monitors right next to his desk, expecting to see a trespasser, but the camera feeds are completely dead and empty. Then, the heavy, deliberate knocking on his door starts. The panic in the room is palpable. He actually resorts to barricading himself inside, shoving chairs against the doorframe just to keep whatever is out there from getting in. After a tense standoff, he finally grabs a knife for protection and forces himself to step outside and check. He steps into the corridor and it is completely impossibly empty.
Đây, cho mọi người xem đây. Đó, mọi người nghe chưa? Gò đi. Địt mẹ nha mày. Nó gọt được cửa này luôn này. Con người đâu được, con người lúc này mà mình đi ra mở cửa là thấy rồi à. Địt mẹ nha mày. Địt mẹ. Địt mẹ. Gò đi. Gò đi, đó. Không có ai mà nó gò cửa này giờ đấy. Ịt mày. Gò nó đi.
But the nightmare doesn't end just because the hallway looks clear. While he is out there cautiously investigating, the entity starts playing a highly aggressive game of cat and mouse. As he creeps down the corridor, the door to the restroom suddenly swings shut on its own. Startled, he pushes it open and checks inside, only to find another empty room. He turns his back to walk away and continue his search, and the absolute second he looks away, that same door violently slams shut behind him with massive force. Realizing he is completely outmatched by something he can't even see, he retreats straight back to the monitor room to check the cameras again.
Có trèo bùa người ta cho hả? Đây. Hey. Thôi. Đi. Mày.
Up until this point, a hardened skeptic might try to blame the slamming doors on a bizarre cross breeze or air pressure in the building. But what happens next completely shatters any logical explanation. The next day, the entity decides it is done just making noise. He is hiding in an office, barely cracking the door open to film the hallway. Look closely at the window frame in the distance. A dark, physical figure finally shows itself, creeping right at the edge of the window frame before seamlessly slipping away into the darkness. It's the ultimate psychological torture. When you look into paranormal folklore, entities that behave like this are rarely ever human spirits. They are usually classified as predatory shadow beings or crawlers. Unlike a typical ghost that might be tied to a specific tragedy or residual memory, these creatures are considered parasitic. They actively seek out isolated individuals and feed off the heavy energy of human terror. That completely explains the hours of psychological buildup. It wasn't just aimlessly haunting the building, it was methodically hunting him. By disabling the cameras, throwing heavy objects, and slamming doors right behind his back, it was deliberately spiking his adrenaline and breaking down his mental defenses. It spent the entire night making sure he knew he was trapped, just to finally let him catch a physical glimpse of it. It's a very clear, chilling message. You can check the monitors and carry a knife all you want, but you can't stop me.